Should student athletes be paid? This is the question that we will explore in this presentation. I hope that in the end you will agree with me that all people should be paid a fair wage of their work, which includes a portion of the profits they help generate. Whether in victory or in defeat, college athletics generates a lot of money. 10 years ago, that was $6 billion. Today, it's more like $14 billion. The money comes in a lot of different ways, including ticket sales, merchandising and licensing, TV and radio contracts, and payouts when a team appears or wins in a championship. To the surprise of many college students and their parents, students who aren't athletes pay anywhere from $100 a year to over $2,000 a year in fees just to support an athletic program. This is one factor in the skyrocketing cost of and the rise of college debt. But the athletes themselves, they see very little of it. Though there is just about 45,000 student athletes in colleges, just 4,400 coaches. Coaches' salaries far exceed the total cost of student aid given to athletes. The average coach's salary is $272,000, while the average aid package for a student is just $20,800. The gap is even wider at the top, with the university's highest paid coach in the U.S., University of Alabama's head football coach, earning nearly $93.9.3 million a year. The result is that our highest paid state employee in 80% of our states is a football or men's basketball coach. That in reality reality also tells us that student athletes in these sports would be worth in an open market between $800,000 and $2.4 million. And that's what they deserve. As Karl Marx says, a schoolmaster and a productive laborer is a productive laborer, and when, in addition to belaboring the heads of his scholars, he works like a horse to enrich the school's proprietor. That and the latter is laid out as capital and teaching factor instead of a sausage factory. It does not alter relations. We can update this to a situation by saying a student athlete is a productive laborer when he works like a horse to enrich his university. That a university exploits a student in the field of a court instead of a worker in a sausage factory does not alter the relation. There's blatant wage theft going on all over the U.S. right now, not just among undocumented workers in farming, meat processing, and restaurants, where you hear about it most often. It also affects college students, especially when student athletes and their labor is stolen each time they practice or play at a university that does not compensate them for their labor. Some may argue that they are being compensated for their education or scholarship. This is blatantly false and deceptive, both because the average scholarship doesn't pay well for the amount of work the students have to put in it, and because it ignores the incredible profit that these athletes generate for their colleges. The student earns their sport education by being good at their sport, but doesn't give a university a right not to share the profits from the student. A student doing skilled labor for an establishment is not and not getting paid for their work is blatant theft. For this reason, college athletes should be paid to play their sport. Some may argue that a full ride scholarship eh, that many athletes earn in trade for their labor. But even full tuition and free scholarships don't compensate them fairly for their labor, so even a full ride for athletics isn't fair compensation. Student athletes at Division I schools spend on average 35 hours per week, both in season and out of season. If we paid them $15 per hour, they'd earn $29,400 in a year. But $15 an hour isn't a fair wage for a skill that requires a lifetime of training, talent, and dedication. Some may argue that because these athletes are also students, they shouldn't be paid. But that immense profit these athletes generate for their schools tells us they aren't amateurs. If we saw them as journeymen on their way to being professionals, then $25 is a fair wage, close to what the apprentices in other fields make, like a journeyman electrician. If they earn $25 an hour for 35 hours per week, the annual income for a student would be $49,000. But colleges don't even come close to offering that athlete, athlete student athletes in return for their work. The average cost at a four-year public school in state is $25,290. This means that even if they get a full ride, student athletes should be paid at least $19,710. But this still doesn't give them any of the profit they're creating for the school. They should also get a portion of that, just like coaches are paid big bonuses when they win big games. We justify those big bonuses for coaches because we want to reward them for hard work. We think that the promise of a possible big payout will make them work harder. But what do we think student athletes will be motivated differently? Somehow big bonuses motivate coaches, but fair wages and a portion of the profit they make isn't motivating to student athletes. Paying athletes a fair wage encourages them to hone their craft, which will increase the profit to the university as they play better, earn them more acolytes and fans, win media attention, and bring home championships. But besides that, this is the right thing to do because it recognizes sports as the labor that it is and compensates student athletes for their work, for the risks they are taking with their bodies. Everyone deserves profit of the labor, even when that is throwing a football or making a 3-point shot. Anything less is wage theft, and our university should be above that.